Welcome everybody. We just finished doing the install for AgentDVR on Ubuntu. I showed you in the earlier video how to go about doing that. So I just fired up the virtual machine, so it's up and running now. Though because I said that the resolution was kind of goofy and it wasn't too easy to look at, so this view is not that great to be seeing things. I'm going to actually enable SSH on it. Right now it's disabled. So what you need to do to enable SSH on Ubuntu is basically open terminal, or you type sudo apt. You can search for it if you have it enabled. Open SSH and give it your password. I don't think it is enabled on my end, not yet, so I'm going to install it. So I did find everything that, okay, I'm going to use the OpenSSH server. So I'm going to install this. Let's just install it actually. I need to probably apt install. Let's open SSH. I think we just do this. Okay, that's the one. Yeah, I wasn't sure about the exact path or exact name for the package that you need to install. Once that is done, it will set up the server. It will add the UFW, the firewall exceptions as well. Now I should be able to, now that is done. So just to show you that this is the actual VM running the AgentDVR instance, I'm going to just go to localhost 8090. So, and we just installed this in the earlier video. So it's got nothing else to it. There is no camera feed, nothing. So 4.4.50 is the current version. I will be showing, probably I'll create a separate clip for this, how to add cameras, how to do this. But the problem that I want to resolve today is that I can't access this instance using my public IP. So I can only access it internally. So I have then, so if I was to do a public, so for example, my public IP address, let me show you what I mean. The problem is I can browse to it using my internal local, so on the network, local network, I can access it just fine. There is nothing stopping me from doing that. But what happens here, I'll actually show you guys quickly how I got to my DVR. I'm going to insert that clip I just did separately, where you can add your IP address for the DVR instance and give it a name, a host name. So it's, instead of typing the full IP address, you can just say my DVR or whatever you name it, right? So you can do that. I will insert that clip right here. So instead of using the IP address, I want to just browse to it using, say, I want to call it mydvr. Just to do that, simply, this is the command that you can run. This is for Windows platform only. For Linux, it might be different. So you would open PowerShell as an administrator, and then you'll run this command, where 10.0.0.42 would be your local IP address of the DVR setup that you have done. For me, I'm going to have it with my IP address that I have set up for my DVR, or AgentDVR basically. I'm just calling it my DVR. Right now, as you can see, I can't ping to it, I can't browse to it. So it's not working, although the server is actually up and running. I'll show you how to go about doing that. So you can search for PowerShell and you start. You can do right click, run as administrator. On the right, you can also run as an administrator as well. So I'm going to do right click, run as admin. And we're going to copy that command. And I'm going to change the IP specific to my network. It will be the same for you guys as well. You do it for your network basically. Once that is done, you can close the PowerShell. Now if you try browsing to it, my DVR 8090, it's gonna load. So I have put a password on my agent DVR. Everybody should have a password set up defined on their portal as well. It adds to security. So that's how you would add a host entry to your etc host file using PowerShell. Now, after watching that, we have set this up. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. You're not able to access it remotely, right? So let me show you what I mean. First of all, let me show you my public IP address. I'm going to probably blur it out. So what is my public IP? Let's Google that. What is my IP.com? It'll show you that this is my IP address. Starts with a 7, ends with a 7. That's my public IP address. Now, if I were to, I'm going to enable VPN. I'm going to this is my this is the public IP address that I am able to access my system or my ISP. So this is my ISP IP address. I have set up rules on my ISP modem that you can browse to a certain port and whatnot. For me, I have set up port number 81. Let me show you that as well real quick. So this is the ISP. This is what I have right now at home. Under basics, I can change the port forwarding. Yours might be different depending on the ISP provider, modem, and whatnot. So I have set the AgentDVR. So this is the one I said. I said, okay, port 82 coming from outside. It's going to go to the internal port of my DVR, basically, right? So this is the DVR IP address, and I am only allowing a specific IP for added security. I don't want anybody to access it from any IP address because I'll be using a VPN. This is my VPN server. I have a VPN server on a hosting provider, and I'm using that. So I'll be giving this IP address only access to be able to access my DVR instance remotely. So let me connect first of all to this IP address before I even attempt anything. So let me connect to the VPN. I have WireGuard running. So this is the VPN. Let's see if it's so it is connected. I got the green. So if I look at my IP address again, I refresh that. So the IP address has changed from 7 or whatever it was and to this IP address. So I'm connected to the VPN. I'm going to show you what the problem is. So if I try to browse to my public IP address, which starts with a 7, ends with a 7, okay, sorry, that was the wrong one. This is my public IP ad. So when I try to browse to it, I get this message. It's browsing to it blocks me. So this is my VPN IP address, right? It's a 4 and ends with a 6. You need a subscription. They're saying that, hey, do this, please go to our app and buy the licensing and whatnot. So I don't want to do that. If I wanted to get a paid version, I would probably try something else like a Blue Iris or something else, or maybe a different product which you can install right on Windows platform instead of using Linux or anything else. So this clip will basically talk about getting around this block that they have added. It's the first license they have, I think the initial, I think $7 or something US dollar per month, I believe. It's not really worth it to be able to just access it. I don't want to use any other features that they provide in there. So let's start fixing this. So I'll be using something called a reverse proxy to be able to get around this. So I'm going to disable and disconnect my VPN so I can go back to work normally. And my public IP address, there we go. So we are good. I am going to, so if we launch that, I can access it. So, okay, excellent. Now I'm going to show you guys how to go about doing the bypass, basic. Let's call it the bypass. So I have downloaded PuTTY for my SSH needs. So I'm going to connect to my instance, my DVR port 22, because we just enabled SSH on our server, and I'm going to log in. Oh, it's not going to work because I got the wrong username. I missed the H. DVR, open. Again, I was going to miss the H there. Hashtag my password. So we are connected to the server now, to the DVR. What we need to do is set up something called Reverse Proxy. I'll post these as well on the descriptions page, where we talk about adding the IP address, the name, and all the stuff, the etc host file. So first step is basically you need to do an update. Before you do that, you need to do sudo apt install NGINX or sudo whatever, right? Instead of doing that, I prefer to just work as a sudo user. So I'm going to log in as sudo. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Maybe it's not called a sudo user, or it's called a super user, I believe, not a sudo user. I'm logged in. Now we're going to do the apt install updates. I didn't find anything. Oh, sorry, it's not install. My bad. apt update is going to look for the updates. Hopefully there are not a whole lot because we just installed this yesterday. So it says 5 packages are available for upgrade. I am not going to do the upgrade. I'm going to just do the install for the reverse proxy. So we'll be using something called NGINX. Let me show you that I don't have it installed right now. So if I were to do this command, it says could not be located. It's not found. We're going to install NGINX. It's on the same server as the DVR, so you say yes. It's rather a quick process. And that's it. That is all you have to do. So we are now going to look at the status. It is up and running. You see the green that, okay, the service installed successfully and we're able to run it. To quickly test what it's actually doing, what you need to do is actually, I'm going to go to it runs on port 80. So if I just do mydvr and hit enter, if it let me, DVR, I guess I'll specify the port. Okay, Google, I don't want you. Well, there you go. So NGINX is running. So this is the default page you will get that, okay, hey, the web server successfully installed. I'm going to show you that you can access it. I have not set up the port forwarding yet to port 80. Let me show you what happens if I try to get to it using the public IP address. You need to do this on your end as well. Once you have NGINX running, you need to make sure that you port forward port 80. That's what it runs on default to the outside world. So let me show you what happens. I'm going to connect to my VPN. I haven't set up the port forwarding yet on my router. If I were to go to my public IP address, and I just say, okay, hit enter. Oh, sorry, port number 82. We're going to still get that error message, right? I can't access, I'm going to forward this port to port number 80. So let me show you how to go about doing that. I need to disable my VPN. Yeah, when I'm on the VPN, I don't have local network access. So that's why you're seeing this message. It should disappear now that we are disconnected from the VPN. Did I not disconnect from the VPN? I did disconnect, so there we go. So we had AgentDVR set up for port 82. This is pointing to 8090. You saw the error message. What I'm going to do is change that to point to the reverse proxy. It's the same server. IP hasn't changed. And we're going to say hit apply. It might be different how you set it up on your end, depending on your ISP and your modem. Now I'm going to enable a VPN again. So I'm going to go to WireGuard, enable. So if I refresh this page, I should see this page as well, because now we're connected to the VPN. Let me just hit refresh, and there you go. So now my port number 82, I just forwarded that to port 80 instead of the DVR port 8090. So my NGINX is running. What we need to do is now modify the configuration so you can actually look at your portal basically, or your AgentDVR web portal. So I'm going to go back to my, hopefully it didn't log me out, ls, okay, good. I'm going to, so NGINX installs it, so it creates a bunch of files under etc NGINX. There'll be a bunch of folders in there. What you need to go and browse to is sites -available. You'll see a default configuration or default. So if I'll show you guys what it looks like. Nano is the editor that I'm using. Default. This is the default configuration. So the page that you saw was basically this, right? You were saying that, hey, this is the index page. This is the message that you're seeing. And that's the default. So I'm going to remove that, or I'm going to change the name of it, or maybe I should just copy it. Copy default to default.back. So now we have two files. I'm going to remove the default because we're going to create it new. So now if you look at the folder structure, only the default back. So if I were to refresh this, I should not get welcome to NGINX or NGINX page, right? So I don't know if it's loading, but oh, I didn't reload. That's why you were seeing that page. You need to, after making a modification, I don't know what will happen. I haven't tried this step. I'm just trying it for the first time, to be honest. You don't need to do this because I believe uncomplicated firewall, when you install NGINX, it does that for you. I will be doing a separate video in terms of how to making your instance or your server a little bit more secure, adding firewall rules. I use a different firewall instead of the UFW, and I'll show you guys how to go about doing that. So once that is done, let's see. I'm looking for the command here in my there you go. So I'm going to restart. Okay, so it exited with an error message because the default page doesn't exist anymore. So I don't think I can actually show you guys what happens when you status. So it has failed, right? Because it's missing the default file. So let's create a default file real quick. Nano default. This is the code that you will be inserting. So depending on your IP address, so this is the code. I'll put that in the description. Instead of using 10 dot whatever this is, right? 10.0.0.42, your public, or your, sorry, not public, your VM, your server's IP address running the AgentDVR instance will be different. And you can leave this to localhost because you don't have to specify the IP address. You're running the NGINX on the same machine. But if, for example, you installed NGINX on a different machine, you have the reverse proxy running somewhere else already for some other reasons, you'll go in there and modify that and put the IP address here instead of localhost to that. So I'm going to copy this code. I have my default page open. I'm going to modify the server name to my IP address that I have. This is my DVR. IP address, and that's it. Control X, it will say save modified buffer. You choose yes, Y, and then you do file name, yes, enter. So now if I look at the directory structure, there it is. I have the default page. I'm going to now test to see if it actually has any error messages, if the configuration got any errors. Do that, NGINX -T. It says everything is fine. Now we're going to reload the server. And if I look at the status now, it should be up and running. So there you go. Now if I load the page, it should take me directly to the AgentDVR. You notice something, right? That at the top, I didn't have to specify 8090. I can still do that. I will still get to that page. But now that NGINX is running, the reverse proxy is running, I don't have to. Great. Thank you, Google. I don't have to specify the port number. So that's another beauty of using reverse proxy is to, if you have multiple servers running and you don't have different port numbers and everything, so something might be running on 8020 or 8080, right? You can use that and you don't have to specify the port numbers. So there you go. That's how you install NGINX, and let me show you how it actually has fixed our problem that we're facing. So I'm going to enable, close that. Actually, I'm going to just leave that page open. It shouldn't work because, actually it should work because even though I'm not on the VPN, let me just connect to the VPN. What is my IP? I'll show you that I'm connected to the VPN. I get the 46 IP address. And I'm going to now hit enter. And there you go. So I'm logged into I'm accessing my public IP address, and I'm able to bypass the restriction that they had put in place. So that's how you would go about connecting to the VPN or connecting to your DVR from the outside world to be able to bypass that without having to pay. So you might run into this problem as well, something to do with the firewall, right? So it says, hey, please make sure that your firewall ports aren't blocking and whatnot, right? So there is another port that I realized that needs to be open as well on your ISP router. I'm going to show you that right now, which port it is. Actually, I need to disconnect from the VPN to connect to my virtual machine. All right, I just disconnected from the VPN. I should be able to access my remote desktop connection. So this is the other port. So DVR proxy, I've called it that. So 3478, and it's a UDP port. 3478. So it's the same port as the public and internal. Don't change the public because I think you need that for some of the services that AgentDVR uses. This is my AgentDVR IP address. I'm not able to access it with a VPN because I had a different VPN earlier with this IP address, so I'm going to change that to specify my current VPN address. So if I do this, right now I'm not able to access I'm going to change the IP address. I'm going to say, you know what, give me access to that. Yeah, you should probably change that too, but I'm not going to do it at this point. The mask. So I have forwarded this port 3478, 3478. I believe I might have to do one more change to my firewall. This might not be enough for my end because I got this, then I got another firewall running with a bunch of rules. So let me see. I'm going to connect back to my VPN. Okay, I'm connected. I'm going to wait for it to show me the IP address here. There you go. I'm going to hit refresh. There you go. So that is all you need to do. So there are two ports that you'll need to forward for your AgentDVR to be accessible outside. I will list that as well in the description, what ports they are. So again, 4.4.5 at the time of doing this session. I'm going to show you in the next few clips on how to add devices, It's just rather simple, but I'll show you guys anyways, and I might actually talk about securing it a bit more before I show you guys how to add devices and whatnot. So I'll be talking about installing a separate different firewall on your Linux instance or on Ubuntu, changing the default port, which is very simple. You just go and do under settings, you go to local server and you just change the port here. And also you need to put a password as well here, or username. Always have a always have a username, password for web portal access. It helps. It gives you another added layer of security. I think with the licensing, they might. I haven't looked at the licensing yet, but they might have multi-factor authentication probably added later on. But that's it. That's how you get bypass that one problem, or one, I don't know if they you call it problem. Maybe they just want to make more money out of it, right? So, but they didn't have this earlier. So if I was to go back to version, I think 3.5, it didn't have that restriction. So they probably added it thinking, you know what, we people are using it. It's a great, it's actually a nice software. Don't get me wrong. Like I've been using it for, I used it for about a year and a half, and I like it. So it's better than ZoneMinder and everything else that I've seen. So like I'm not going to use any of the other features. That's all that I really cared about was remote access. So because if you click on remote access, it says, hey, you need to connect to the account to do all this stuff. I don't like creating accounts. I don't like external services having access to my network as well. I can't access, and so this on the firewall that I have disabled access to this IP address, and only my VPN IP address gets through. So that's probably the best way to go about having a DVR portal and giving it network access. You can also use a VPN. So install a VPN on your local network and you access your services through that. So instead of using reverse proxy, that's another way to get around this block. So, but anyways, if you guys like this video, please do hit the subscribe button. Please do comment. If you want to if you want to see more videos about AgentDVR, how to do different things, please do comment below. I will be talking about adding network storage. So I will be talking about how to configure your storage devices, how to actually, instead of using the built-in path or built-in storage location, you can add network storage as well. So I will show you guys that as well, and how to go about on adding it on Linux permanently. I will be using Windows Share. I will not be using FreeNAS or anything else, but it should be similar. A similar process. It might be a little bit easier maybe, so you don't have to do it on Linux or on Ubuntu. So next few videos, we'll be talking about all that stuff. So please stay tuned. I will edit this video, try to upload it today itself. Oh, it's the 31st, so Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful evening if you're watching it later. I hope 2023 is prosperous for you guys, and enjoy. Thanks a lot. Stay safe, guys. Thanks a lot.